We'll now call the Common Council meeting to order and do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's been a while since we've done a roll call. Let's do it again.
Alderman Strelchuk is absent. Alderman Talaco?
Here.
Alderman Meyer?
Here.
Alderman Hancher?
Here.
Alderman Bach?
Here.
Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Alderman Bratt?
Here.
Alderman Gebhardt?
Here.
Mayor Nurbin?
Here. First up, we have a couple of public hearings. First is ordinance 2024-1661, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code in connection with clarifying certain definitions, design standards, and location standards for residential development within the city's town center and arrival corridor zoning districts. This was recommended by Planning Commission March 18th. Further recommendation from the Committee of the Whole this evening. First reading at Common Council last month on April 9th. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here tonight who wishes to speak on this item? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back. We will take action on this item at this time. Is there a motion? Or any further discussion? We just discussed it at Committee of the Whole, so I'm anticipating not much.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Talaco?
Aye.
Alderman Meyer?
No.
Alderman Hancher?
Aye.
Alderman Bach?
Aye.
Alderman Parrish?
Aye.
Alderman Bratt?
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt?
Aye.
And that ordinance carries. The second ordinance is 2024-1662, an ordinance repealing and recreating Article 6 within the Mequon Chapter 58 Municipal Code as it relates to floodplain zoning. This was recommended by Planning Commission March 18th, and further recommendations coming from Public Welfare this evening.
Public welfare approved.
And first reading was at last month at April's Common Council meeting. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of going into public hearing, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we are now in public hearing. We have at least one person here who wishes to speak. Nancy Talaco, 12644 North Shoreland. Agenda item is the flood maps. Poses and wishes to speak.
I do. Hello. First, I want to thank you, the Common Council. I have discovered there's a lot you do with regard to city government, and I very much appreciate all of your efforts to represent Mequon residents. I know it's pretty tough. That said, I greatly appreciate the attention given to the new flood maps. It would be much easier to simply approve them with no further thought, but that would be just kicking the can down the road. I have lived in the floodway for 40 years. During that time, FEMA flood insurance has risen from approximately $300 a year to over $3,000 a year. My home, built in the 1930s, does not have a basement and is elevated, but below the current base flood elevation. In a flood event, the surrounding area does flood, but we have never had water in the house. The new flood maps increased the base flood elevation 14 inches in my area, which in a flood event would put my main floor under water. If my home has not flooded in the last 40 years at the current base flood elevation, it doesn't seem accurate that the water level would ever get to be 14 inches higher. In addition, some homes that are considered flood fringe or have letter of map amendments, LOMAs, and other parts of Mequon will be adversely affected by these new maps. With all of the claims in the last several years nationwide, FEMA insurance has taken a big hit. These new maps will undoubtedly generate increased insurance premiums. I question the process by which these new maps were created and their accuracy. I believe it is the duty of the city to investigate and challenge the maps if necessary. Mequon needs to stand up for its residents and fight to keep every inch of the land that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight who wishes to speak on this topic? Hearing and seeing no takers on that. Is there a motion to close public hearing? Motion and a second to close public hearing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back, and we will take up that item. I'll just lead by responding. I'm upset at the way the process works too. FEMA and DNR drop these on your lap and give you precious little time to respond to them. The process sucks. I too question the accuracy of the maps, especially as we found out in planning staff's conversation with FEMA and DNR that they're using a flood flow more than 2 times what has ever been observed at the U.S. Geological Services monitoring station on the north end of the study area at where Cedarburg dumps into Mequon. That's why today I signed a series of letters to state and federal officials imploring them to have them correct that modeling error in their process. We could go through the details of the whole model and the elevations and water absorption, but none of that matters because they're using a flood flow rate 2 times what's ever been observed, 2.05 times as a matter of fact. If the government wants people to trust in science and engineering, they better use the right data. Unfortunately, we have to approve this, even as flawed as it is, by July. Actually sooner, because it has to get approved by FEMA. We have to have it done sometime in June, or our residents lose flood insurance, and that's simply unacceptable position to put those residents in. So I'd say we're moving forward under duress is probably the best characterization of where we're at. At least I do intend to challenge our state and elected officials to have them do the right thing with the modeling. There might be other avenues we can pursue, but at least forcing them to run their existing model, hopefully forcing them to run their existing models with the right flow rate would be a good first step. I don't know where that request will go. The letters are just going out today, but that is in process. I'm happy to open it up for other comment. I'm sure there'll be a few comments before we take action on this item. So open it up for everyone else. Alderwoman Talaco.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I am very happy with the way that city staff has been working so diligently to find these issues and to continue to try and give back as much of the land back to our residents. I am pretty excited about some of the adoptions that we're making in this Article 9 as far as giving back residents in the non-conforming buildings, their properties back to them. Tonight, I do ask, or will make a motion to postpone until the following next Common Council meeting in June, which would still give us enough time to adopt them and to allow us to have the open house in order to give the residents a chance to look through it, to be a part of the process, in order to move forward with this. The second motion would still be, my second motion would be to separate it as far as when we approve the resolution of the maps versus the ordinance as well. Meaning that the maps are inaccurate. We found errors.
I I agree with you in principle, but in practice, both have to be adopted on the same time frame. We can't approve one and not the other, or the end result is the same, unfortunately.
Well, I'd like to put forth the first motion I'd like to try and make is to postpone until the next meeting of this.
Okay, let's take other input before we entertain any motion that resembles tabling. Is there any other input from the council? Alderman Bratt.
Yeah, so I appreciate the residents standing up and speaking to us. And, you know, I think that's what we have here tonight, as you saw with the last discussion we had, communication. And I really wish, I know staff has tried to get DNR to participate in this open house on the 29th. And, we all have our errors and follies, but having that communication, just being there, being part of that discussion, I think would go a long way to help addressing some of our residents' concerns. I have a number of impacted residents in District 7 as well. So all I ask is for other level of government to communicate with us and our residents. Thank you.
Any other input from any of the elected officials? Alderman Parrish.
I like the idea of delaying it. I mean, ultimately we will approve it, but as far as the optics or the timing, maybe we'll come up with some great new information at the open house. Either way, as long as we're not jeopardizing the July vote, I don't see any reason not to delay it. Furthermore, I would just add that public welfare did discuss this, and staff is starting. They have some really interesting, complicated ways of attacking the data and the maps, and so they don't just want to go challenge the whole ruling, right? All the maps. Like, we want to pinpoint exactly what we are contesting, and then hire a consultant for those areas. And so right now we don't even have a sense of the scope, but I guess that would be one message I'd continue to want to say to residents is that we'll keep spending time and money on this even after July, because we can't slow it down. But I'd like to do a protest tabling, tonight, just to give it to them, and an easy decision, and maybe some new information will come out at the open house. Thank you.
Alderman Gebhardt.
I'm just a little confused and need some clarity here. So the thought is that we just want to kick it out a month to make the same decision that we're going to make today?
My thought is not to rush approval of it until after we have the open house, that residents have had a chance to read through it, to read the new things that we've put in it, such as the new act that we've incorporated into it, just to give it a little bit more. I feel like the more minds that we have that work on an issue, the easier it is to come to results, because everyone can kind of think in their own box or their own way. And if we can incorporate all that, we might have a better plan as far as how we should put a motion forth in order to challenge the maps and what areas of most concern we should be challenging at that time. I'm afraid that if we pass it by right now, it kind of is check mark done and we kind of forget about it. So I'd like it still to be in the forefront of our minds next month.
There's theoretically no harm in waiting, but there's little to be gained at the same time. We aren't going to forget about it and push it off to the side. We're still under a deadline to get it. We have to approve it in June so it can get back to FEMA in time for them to adopt it.
Yeah, their ultimate deadline is June 30th. We have to have it back
Yeah.
and complete by then. So I guess the caution of waiting a month is that we probably won't have any chance to make any changes to it next month. So if there were changes you wanted to make now,
Well, that's the
entertain them.
conundrum. If there's changes, they need to be reviewed by WDNR first.
Right, and if they don't approve them,
And if they don't approve them, then we're looking at a special meeting in a rushed fashion at the end of June. I guess if everyone's willing to commit to a date at the end of June to schedule that meeting, we could entertain it, but it's a little bit risky. I'm not sure what we actually can change. I think if we approve the model ordinance and the maps, as flawed as they may be, especially for the maps, we can propose changes after that deadline. There's nothing precluding us from requesting additional changes, but because of the way DNR and FEMA set up the rules, we've got a legislative gun to our head. We have to take action by a date or something bad happens to someone. It's, that's how we get strong-armed into these things. But after that occurs, we can make any number of requests for modifications to either of those. And I think there's an intent being signaled by the council to challenge some portions, if not all of the maps, in some way, shape, or form.
And I would just say, we sent the cards out last week, so we sent about 1,400 cards out. I spoke to probably between 50 and 70 people this week, asking how it impacts them directly. So I've had numerous conversations with a lot of residents. And I think one commonality is that when I told them that the council was questionable to the map's accuracy and they were going to look at doing something in the future, that was, I think, a good feedback for them to understand. So, and I did explain to all of them that there's really not much we can do without adopting these maps, but we can look at it after that fact and go forward. So I think most of the residents that I spoke to at least are supportive of that and are encouraged by the direction the council is looking to go.
Any other feedback, questions, or a motion? Did we have a motion? I don't think we have a.
You had a motion, you didn't have a second, however.
Okay.
So there would need to be a second for that to be a motion on the table officially.
So
I'll second it.
there's a motion and a second to table. Oh, that's. Oh, did I hear the city attorney correct? We have a motion to table?
It was, as I heard it, it was a motion to postpone to the next meeting. I
Which is
suppose
tabling, okay.
They're kind of the same, but technically different motions.
We could all abstain and the same thing happens. So there's a motion and a second to table. Okay, that's not debatable, so I'm gonna stop talking and call the roll, please.
Alderman Hancher,
No.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
No.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer.
7-2 to table. That's officially tabled until next month. Kind of have to act next month. That brings us on to personal appearances and public comment. Citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on an agenda item, you may be heard when that item is considered on the agenda. Please speak into the microphone at the podium. Time limit is 5 minutes. I think we have one person pre-registered for this section of the meeting. Count Copy Fuller of 1415 South 92nd, number 210 in West Allis, Wisconsin. Something regarding a soliciting ordinance. Please approach the microphone.
I'd like to hand these things out to the board here.
Go right ahead.
Okay. My name is Count Copy Fuller, and I've been a Fuller brushman for over 50 years in the Milwaukee area. So if anybody knows something about soliciting, I think I can be a testament to that. Now, in today's world, people don't like solicitors that much in today compared to like 40 or 30 years ago. So I'm at the end of my career, so to speak. And so what I've done the last year and a half is I've checked on all the different municipalities on how their ordinances compare and if they're legal or illegal, if they're constructed. Now, that form you have before you, that statute was made by the state of Wisconsin about 25 years ago. It's called the Melinda Ordinance, and it only pertains to companies that bring in solicitors from out of state, and then they go around the different municipalities. I have been soliciting here, so it doesn't apply to me. Now, in the last month and a half, I came and I saw Carolyn in the last 3 weeks, and I gave her a copy of that, and I educated a lot of city clerks throughout the greater Milwaukee, Madison area. A lot of them weren't aware of this. And that's either the fault of workforce development or some city clerks. I mean, we can't know everything, can we? So I took the time, and I have a board here. This is just some of the town halls that I've been to and looked at their ordinances, and you'd be surprised at how different they are. There's not too much uniformity. So when I asked Caroline and dropped that information off a few weeks ago in the morning, lo and behold, a company called Active Environmental, who's been coming here for many years, in 3 or 4 hours later, 12 of those salespeople were in her lobby requesting an ordinance, to get their licenses approved. Now, if you read in that, the city halls, of all the city halls, what they should be doing is when an outside company provides these out-of-town reps coming in, they should first go to the state of Wisconsin and apply for that Melinda statute, which is to register with the state and then they get a permit or identification card. Then they should proceed to the local municipalities and get their proper paperwork at your place. Now, the only 2 cities in the entire state of Wisconsin that I was at that have conformed to that are the city of Brookfield and the city of Greenfield. And they implemented this years ago, maybe in the last 5 or 10 years. I mentioned to Caroline that, don't believe me, check with those 2 or check with workforce state, because it's not your ordinance, it's a state statute. So what I wanted to do, I'm making some new things up in my semi-retirement, which will help your residents be aware of. Some companies aren't coming to you first, they're sending their solicitors out because they don't know the boundaries from River Hills or Mequon. There is no, if you're out-of-state young person or solicitor, I have a solution that I'm trying to implement in different municipalities as we speak. And as soon as I get some to implement it, I will come back and try to get you to go along with my recommendation. Is there any questions you have?
I don't think so at this time because we're not prepared to speak on this as it's not on the agenda. So we just listen during this.
Okay.
We don't have a conversation. I guess I will say don't blame the clerk. We make the code here, and
No,
some group of 8 or 9 people 30 years ago made what we have on the books, and it's very possible it's out of date with whatever the state is saying today. So,
Well, 40 years ago, when I was 32, I'm 72 now, River Hills had a no soliciting ordinance, your sister municipality, and that was illegal. You have to allow soliciting with restrictions. And 40 years ago, they changed their ordinance. I just was in Lake Geneva, town of Lynn. They're changing their ordinance. They had no soliciting. So there are some municipalities, town of Oconomowoc Lake, you know the names. They all have variations on there because they try to discourage solicitors from coming into their areas. I haven't looked at yours closely, but,
Well, we allow soliciting. I guess the 5 minutes has elapsed, so I'll just,
okay. All right, so.
I'll truncate this. We do allow soliciting. You just have to apply for a permit and register and
Right.
all sorts of things. But we will look at this and do a legal scrub on it, and then
Well, I was just wondering if she did approve those 11 or 12 solicitors for APTA yet?
we
I don't approve them.
she doesn't approve them. The subset of this group that is the Finance and Personnel Committee approves them, and I can't remember if they are on our agenda tonight or not, but I think we did approve them.
Was
We
that-
we seldom disapprove anyone, unless the police department ran a background check and
Okay.
there's something concerning. But the 5 minutes is up. I thank you for bringing this forward. We'll definitely look into it, and I assume we'll hear from you again when you've done a little more research.
Right.
All right, thank you.
very much for your time,
Thank you.
and we'll see you again.
Sounds good. Brings us to public officials reports, unless there's someone else here who wishes to speak on something not on the agenda. I don't see anyone. Public officials reports, I'll cede my time. I would not add anything. City Administrator, anything to add?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just following up on the earlier agenda item regarding the open house discussed for May 29th. That'll be on Wednesday, May 29th, here in the Common Council chambers to review the new floodplain maps and the model ordinance that were both tabled this evening. The workshop will run from 9:30 a.m. all day until 7 p.m. in the evening, and staff is working to get representatives from both FEMA and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to attend the workshop during some or all of the hours that we'll be hosting that here in the council chambers. Postcards have been mailed out, as Assistant Director Zader mentioned earlier, to approximately 1,400 residents who are potentially affected by the changes that are being proposed. The maps, the new maps for 2024 are available on the city website for viewing prior to the workshop meeting. And there will also be a couple of staff presentations throughout the day at the workshop, taking place at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and again at 6 p.m. in the evening. If anyone needs additional information on the floodplain map and model ordinance open house for Wednesday, May 29th, they can reach out to staff in the Department of Community Development at 262-236-2904. Thank you.
Thank you for those announcements. We are now at the consent agenda. We have 15 sets of meeting minutes from various boards and commissions or other staff reports. Is there a motion to approve them in bulk, or would anyone like one of those items set aside for discussion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We have just one ordinance, one additional ordinance from the other two from public hearing. Ordinance 2024-1663, an ordinance repealing and recreating the City of Mequon Aldermanic District Map due to 2024 Senate and Assembly redistricting. This was recommended by Public Welfare on April 9th in first reading, also last month at the Common Council on April 9th. Is there a motion or any discussion?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any last comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that ordinance is adopted. Resolutions, Resolution 4117, a resolution appointing Marie Kaiser to the position of Acting Finance Director / City Treasurer. This was recommended earlier this evening by Finance and Personnel.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good, congratulations again. Next, Resolution 4118, a resolution awarding a contract for completion of a joint Mequon-Thiensville bicycle and pedestrian way planning study to Grafe Engineer of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the amount not to exceed of $70,000, and authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding with the Village of Thiensville for the project's local share. This is recommended by the Joint Mequon-Thiensville Bike and Pedestrian Way Commission on April 18th, and further recommendation forthcoming from Public Works this evening.
Public Works approved of it, and I move the resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second. And a third even. Okay, we'll get to the vote in a second. Any discussion on this item?
Quick question.
Sure, Alderman Bach.
Was this the one where was the Thiensville puts in 12%? Was that this?
Yes.
Okay, and I just was wondering
Yeah.
where those percentages come up with, or is that the same percentage for all Mequon Thiensville, or is it?
No.
How does that?
It's a little different.
Okay.
yeah.
We don't need to get the whole.
No,
This
no,
one-
they're paying their fair share.
Yeah, well.
Came from. Just was asking.
Well, do we know I'm assuming it's a legacy number used for all things bikeway, but I don't know.
Population, right?
That's based on population or number of prospective bikeway users. Is another way of thinking about it. Okay. Thank you for that question and the answer. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? If hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Tolaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
That resolution passes. On to Resolution 4119, a resolution rejecting bids received for the replacement of various HVAC units and other upgrades within the Common Council chambers at City Hall. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
We approve this resolution 4119. And
I move approval.
I'll
Motion.
second it.
Motion and a second. Does anyone have any comments or questions for staff regarding this process? Do you need any direction from us?
I was otherwise seeking some direction. As noted in the memo, the original project was bid with a number of alternatives. We're looking for direction from the council when we rebid the project on whether all of those alternatives should be included. And if you're so willing, giving this late hour, to give us direction maybe at a minimum on the ceiling selection.
What was did the committee have any recommendations? I was just going to call that question. Alderwoman Tolaco.
I discussed that we should go all in. You know, you kind of start with the maximum wish list and then you reel it back from there. We did have discussion about if the HVAC was to fail this summer, and that wouldn't really change the timing or anything. And if it was to fail, it would be failing coils, which is above my pay grade to understand all of it. So it's going to keep us on track. Rejecting these bids to rebid it at a more suitable price with the thinking that they were highly inflated because it was a true need. So they kind of knew that we needed it now, not later. If I'm understanding correct.
So we could approve the ceiling, the HVAC, the flooring, and then if as we get closer, we could look at the cost and see if we wanted to continue with all those improvements or we wanted to change some things.
So for those that were here at the time, you may recall that we had an issue when we bid the City Hall parking lot project, that we had a number of options. And so when we rebid the project, we bid it as a total package, signaling to the contractors that the intent was to do all of the work. But then we allowed for deductions, whereas there could have been things that would have been eliminated from the project, which resulted in better pricing. that's the process that the committee members were otherwise speaking to, with the idea of bidding all of it and then taking items out if it doesn't ultimately need the budget, which is correct. However, we are being told that the pricing would be better if we narrowed the ceiling options, because bidding it with 3 separate ceiling options feels to the contractor a little bit like a choose your own adventure and a non-commitment from the city to do any of the options, frankly. So if the council was so willing, we were otherwise seeking direction on the ceiling options, and if not, we can rebid it the way it otherwise was this round with the alternatives.
So does everyone have the ceiling options in front of them? I think those are packet pages
Yeah,
203, 4, and 5. One looks a lot like it does now, maybe not so popcorny.
Correct. No popcorn. It
No
would
popcorn.
be drywall and ideally less watermarks.
Ideally 0 watermarks.
Well, the other consideration was that if we went with one of the designs, they could hide the wiring for
Correct.
for the new technology.
Correct. If you can tell, the latter two include, and I'm probably going to use the wrong words, but essentially raceways along the walls, so that any future technology, wiring, electrical, lighting, anything like that could essentially be hidden versus having to fish it into the
So
walls.
some
which
sort
is-
of soffit type feature
Yes.
to. I think that would be wise, because we are sorely lacking in modern conveniences here, and as far as technology goes.
That would be my recommendation, because being an older building, it would make sense to try to hide it the best way it could.
And there are going to be some technology upgrades, correct? But that's separate.
Well, I think if we decide to go all in and include technology as in scope,
Yeah.
So which one you?
Here, I never get to do this, but if anybody's
well, this feels a lot like a
I
planning
have
commission meeting now.
samples
Yeah.
of what the palette for the options otherwise are.
What do you have a preference on one of these, Kristen? 203, 204, 205? I mean, I like the looks of 204.
The latter two, so anything beyond the drywall, not only include the benefits of the raceways and the soffits as otherwise discussed, but also include the benefit of the acoustical panels. So as technology goes, as we have more upgrades in City Hall, they do provide those additional benefits beyond just the drywall itself.
I mean, I think this is a tired space. I think it should kind of needs a little freshening up, and I agree with Alder Talaco. I mean, if we have an opportunity here to do something nice, it may not be everything that we want, but anything we can do to make it look a little better, I think now's
Being
a
ran so
chance.
late, I can't show you how beautiful our windows are, but that's something that's been on the list for quite a few years as well.
They look so much nicer when they freeze up in the winter. No doubt, yeah, it needs a refresh. So we really got to make a decision between, I think it's page 204 and 205.
Which are anticipated to be in order of increased pricing.
Oh, so 205 is more expensive than 204?
Correct.
I kind of think 204 looks nicer, but that's just me. I see a lot of show of hands, 204 or 205. 204. Page 204. 205 is even darker paneled wood and costs more. Then you won't see if it's drywall, you'll never see a stain on the drywall if the roof leaks. Do we? I sensed, show of hands, 204 again. Okay, we've got a majority. Okay. Okay, 204 it is. So we'll need to incorporate.
All I need.
Do we need to encapsulate that in the motion?
No.
Or is just enough? That's
Luckily,
enough.
the motion is mostly just to reject the bid.
Just to reject the bids. Perfect. So we have a motion and a second to reject bids. You've got the input you need?
Yes.
All in with page 204 is the Ceiling treatment, okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor of rejecting the bids, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, bids are rejected. Resolution 4120, a resolution authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding with the Village of Brown Deer for road improvements on County Line Road between Cedarburg Road and the railroad tracks east of 52nd Street and Garden Drive in the estimated amount of $445,000. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Public Works this evening approved of it.
Okay, is there a motion or any discussion?
I'll move the motion.
So a motion to approve
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
and Alderman Bach.
Aye.
That resolution passes as well. Resolution 4121, a resolution approving award of three-year landscape maintenance contract for road medians and other public priorities to Northern Exposure Landscaping of Mequon, Wisconsin, at an annual cost of $35,000. A recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Public Works this evening approved of it, and I move the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
And that resolution passes. On to Resolution 4122, a resolution approving a purchase of a replacement plow truck chassis from Truck Country of Oak Creek, Wisconsin, in the amount of $117,546. Recommendation also coming from Public Works.
And Public Works approve of it, and I will move the motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? We don't buy whole plow trucks now. We buy them in pieces and make them because it's so hard to get plow trucks. Gotta love the post-COVID supply chain. Hearing no other discussion or seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Talaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Bratt.
Aye.
And that is approved. On to Resolution 4123, a resolution rejecting a carbon reduction program grant, CRP grant, and authorizing city staff to pursue a contract with We Energies for the replacement of 14 streetlights on Mequon Road between Valley Drive and the Milwaukee River. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Public Works approve of it, and I move the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Alderman Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd send a message into Director Lundeen, just asking the committee to consider a request I had from a resident about more streetlights at Oriole Lane, Lilac Lane, Robin Lane, Bobolink, and Mulberry, which do not have the same luminosity or brightness, leading to pedestrian concerns, especially at night, in particular for the Jewish community who is actively walking on these sidewalks in this neighborhood and gotten a lot of concerns over the years with not enough light. So this is a great opportunity to upgrade light, and appreciate the committee's support. And just wondering if you talked about doing more than 14 lights in areas where it could be brighter.
These 14 are the only city-owned ones on Mequon Road. So they're the only ones that are impacted both by the grant and by our request, or our request for the direction to be able to contract with We Energies. The other lights are either owned by another entity or would be upgraded through the We Energies LED process that we started last fall.
Thank you. So just to follow up, would you mind getting back to me in the future about just whose jurisdiction those are under, just so we could look at it a little?
Tim is back from his fishing
Yeah,
trip.
when you have
We will
time.
do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions on these 14 lights? We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call or no? Is there, I guess there's some
The
fiscal impact, but maybe.
The contract will come back if we have one.
Okay, so no. All right. Any further input? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of rejecting the bids, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And they are rejected, or rejecting the grant, sorry. Resolution 4124, a resolution denying the request for sanitary service deferral agreement from the property located at 10056 North Cedarwood Road. This was, denying was not approved, so we approved the deferral at the Sewer Utility District Commission earlier this night. Is there a motion? Or any more discussion? Motion to approve the action we took in the prior meeting, a motion to approve the deferral. A motion.
Second.
And a second. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving the deferral, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that resolution, well, the resolution failed, but the deferral is approved. Resolution 4125, a resolution authorizing designation of 2010 West Ranch Road as the replacement site for the construction of Lift Station E. Recommendation forthcoming from Sewer Utility District Commission earlier this evening. It was approved there, and we'll now take action as the council here.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or comments in this body? We discussed it at length earlier at the Sewer Utility District. Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Tolaco,
Aye.
Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Bach,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
No.
Alderman Bratt,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
That resolution passes 5-2. We have no unspecified business from prior meetings, specified unfinished business, specified new business. We have two mayoral appointments, Board of Appeals, Stephen Helfer, member at large, and James Warzen, I probably butchered that last name, the alternate member, and Board of Review, Richard Muller, as an alternate member. And we have also two aldermanic appointments, Ethics Board, Luke Benke from District 8, and Barbara Levin from District 6. Is there a motion to approve these?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those appointments are approved. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks.